Today, we are exposing the 4 shadiest things about the LA fires, and most importantly, what business owners can do to protect themselves when leadership fails.
There needs to be a significant shift in that state for it to maintain its position.
The LA fires have not just been a disaster, they've been a failure of leadership. Can they trust their government to come save them when the economic downturns happen, the complete chaos takes place? Can you trust your government to save you?
I want some 6'5", 240-pound, built like a shit brick house, kicking in the door, like looking like a Marvel superhero, dragging me out with one arm.
I looked it up, Gavin. I was like, how much is a flamethrower? And the majority of flamethrowers are like $1,000 to $3,000. How does a homeless guy get a hold of one of these? Hey everybody, this is Life Legal and the Headlines. I am your host, Chris Farrell. I'm joined by legal expert Gavin Elliott today we are exposing the 4 shadiest things about the LA fires, and most importantly, what business owners can do to protect themselves when leadership fails. So let's get into it. Gavin, what's up, man?
I am feeling really good. My childhood college football team, Notre Dame, is in the finals, so...
My man.
I mean, you put recent election results coupled with that together, 2025 has turned out really bloody good right now. So, yes, I'm very excited. And I'm excited about, unfortunately we have situations like this arising, but I'm looking forward to having a conversation about this as well.
Yeah, definitely, man. Hey, I did not know you were a Notre Dame fan. Congrats. I'm a Michigan football fan, so I had my time last year. And hopefully it's your time this year, man, with the Natty. That'd be awesome.
That'd be brilliant. It really would.
Super cool. So, Gavin, let's get into this, man. Like, this is still in the headlines as of the time of us publishing this. The LA fires have not just been a disaster. They've been a failure of leadership, man. And we're going to talk about the 4 things that we find fairly shady when it comes to everything that's taken place with the LA fires. But first off, man, I mean, let me ask you this. So let's start with the LA County budget cuts. All right, so LA County cut $17.6 million from fire services just before the wildfire season. Okay,
yeah.
City officials say that the budget actually increased overall, but firefighters on the ground are saying no, this drastically affected how we've been prepared and able to fight these fires. From a legal standpoint, Gavin, like, let's just cut straight to the chase on this. Could LA be held accountable for negligence if these budget cuts directly lead to preventable losses?
You know what? The only way, in circumstances such as this, just purely dealing with budgetary decisions, that they can be held liable would be at the polling stations.
It's fair.
And this is California, so if you slap a D on a douche, like, that douche is getting elected. So there's going to be no consequences for this. There's going to be, grinding of teeth, and everyone's going to say, oh, it's so horrible. Let's never have it happen again. And nothing's going to change. It's California. They're stuck in a rut.
Yeah. Well, what I find so interesting about this is it's the Palisades fire. And from my understanding, like, this is where the celebrities live, man. I mean, P. Diddy's mansion goes down. Paris Hilton's mansion goes down. Billy Crystal, James Wood, Mel Gibson. I mean, really high-profile names are losing their homes. What can they take legal action?
Well, the one thing I immediately thought of is that with all that baby oil in P. Diddy's house, that thing must have gone up like a son of a bitch, man.
Oh, my God.
Like, you would not want to be stationed next to P. Diddy's house with all that body oil when it went up. There is conduct of government agents. You have this general principle of sovereign immunity, which is viewed both in the context of limitation of liability amount and also limitation of liability period for certain decisions. Actually, we had this come up in the Trump criminal cases recently, this concept of presidential immunity, where certain actions when you were the executive, as he was, are not actionable by anyone under any circumstance. And the idea behind it is to allow government agencies and politicians, etc., to function freely without fear of recourse. Now, I actually litigate. There are cases that come up on occasion. There are 48 USC 1983 cases, if I remember correctly. It's been a bit, but they're basically defined as deprivation of civil right cases. They tend to arise mostly in the so law enforcement's an example where just because you're a law enforcement, you can't randomly go around shooting people. So if there is a threshold that can be crossed by conduct that removes the immunity, but in the context of like budgetary decisions, I mean, absent, you'd have to get really creative with the facts to remove immunity for something like that. If there was some sort of, I remember how we had FEMA recently where one of the ladies came out, she appeared on Fox News, and she said that they were being instructed to ignore houses that had Trump signs in front of them. Now, if you change that arguably is actionable could be actionable, but any sort of thing where let's ignore the white people, let's ignore the black people, let's ignore the Asians, whoever. If the application of the exercise of your obligations was discriminatory, then yes, you could potentially have a cause of action there as well.
So you're saying LA County is safe from negligence?
For the most part, yes. It would. I mean, in decision making, yes. In physical conduct itself, potentially not, but in decision making, yes. I actually saw this meme today on Instagram where it was like LA County personal injury attorneys rebranding themselves as fire attorney, like how the personal injury practitioners down there are now all going to be, has your house been damaged by fire? We're experts. We can help you, blah, 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 blah. The real, so it's going to be hard to go after them for misconduct in that. And, I'm from Florida. You're in North Carolina. We're used to hurricanes. And there's always allegations that FEMA's dropping the ball somehow, but there's never really any action taken on it,
Yeah. Well, so what's interesting about these budget cuts is that they cut $17.6 million. However, when I actually looked at the auditor's website for LA County, they had allocations aimed for equity, diversity, and social services, upwards of $783 million. I mean, this might seem rhetorical, but does it appear that these woke initiatives are trumping public health and safety?
I would absolutely agree with that statement. There was some statistics out there that I had seen, facts that the amount of money. Now we were talking about 17 point something million, I believe, in LA.
Yeah.
But the amount of money that California was spending on asylum seekers and I'm using that term very loosely because a big chunk of the people coming in under that umbrella don't qualify. Right. But regardless, in the billions.
Yeah.
So I mean, they are making selections that are more focused on ideology than utility, and that is the shame of it. And my mother has this saying that charity begins at home. Like, so I'm going to take care of my kid first, and I'm going to look after the people on my block that I'm, and friends, and I'm going to look after the people in my city, county, state, country. Then I can start worrying about the rest of the bloody world. But like, we have to shore up things here at home, and we have the money to do it. I mean, that's the interesting thing about California. California can't print money. It can print debt, but it can't print money.
Yeah.
So it's not like the U.S. government where they can just constantly run a deficit. California has to stay within certain parameters. But within that parameters, they're prioritizing the well-being of foreign nationals to the extent they're providing funding to these immigrants, be they asylum seekers and otherwise, over their own native population. And they pay just a ton in taxes there, too. So, I mean,
$52 billion is their county income on an annual basis.
What is your incentive as a person living in California to reside there? If California is a beautiful state, by the way, no putting that aside. I mean,
I was going to say the sun.
Yeah, like it's gorgeous, the weather is gorgeous, and there are a lot of very cool people there. But like, when your government is just basically flipping you off nonstop when you're giving it money, like at one point in time, and we're seeing this, people are starting to leave because, perhaps this will shatter the illusion that these taxes that are being paid for the benefit of the people, you know?
Sure. Perhaps
that illusion starts eroding, because it's one thing not wanting to pay taxes because you don't believe it, because you just don't want to pay it. It's another, there's another mindset that, well, I'll pay it as long as, the services are good, and they're not.
Yeah.
Like, you have fire hydrants don't have water in them. I haven't looked into that in depth, but I don't understand how that's a thing.
Well, let's talk about it. Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, sure.
So you lead me to point number 2, right? So number 1, the number 1 point that we find shady is the budget cuts, right? And how the resources were allocated to woke initiatives that don't really serve the people from a public health and safety perspective. The second thing that I find super shady is that when the fire hydrants are trying to be used for these historic wildfires in these key areas, the main reservoir was offline and under maintenance. And that's 117 million gallons of water that are unavailable. I mean, obviously, we'd say there should have been a contingency plan for that. But again, from a legal perspective, man, if a business owner or a homeowner lost property because firefighters literally didn't have water or pressure, can't they sue the city? Can they not? I mean, what the heck?
Someone's going to try. I'll guarantee you that someone's going to try. And I don't profess to be licensed in California.
Yeah.
There's just a certain level of malfeasance. When you speak of negligence, you speak of unintentional misconduct, Yeah. And that you need to get past just that to burst that bubble. And honestly, there will be someone's going to attempt to sue the government. It might not prevail, but someone's going to attempt to do it.
Yeah.
It's just there has to be a little something, like the budget allocation is one thing. The not having the reservoir accessible, that's a little more interesting, because that's not it is an executive / legislative decision, but it's an executive legislative decision. It's more of a duty than a discretionary act, I guess is what I'd say.
Yeah.
So by completely ignoring what is a duty as opposed to a discretionary act, there is the potential to gain liability there. But honestly, running into court on something like that might be difficult.
Okay, so this is what I found, and this is super interesting. The water reservoir not being filled and being offline is odd, okay? But I'm trying to make explanation for it. Like, okay, hey, let's not go all the way fully conspiracy here. But then I saw something where it said, let me pull it up. It said in 2014, California voters approved Proposition 1, authorizing $7.5 billion in bonds for water-related infrastructure, with $2.7 billion earmarked specifically for water storage projects, including the construction of new reservoirs. As of January 2025, guess how many reservoirs have been completed under this funding?
Zero,
bro.
You know what's
Can
crazy?
you imagine?
Well, you know what? This goes back to your point of prioritization. When the dictator from China, like San Francisco, has a terrible homeless problem,
Yeah.
But when the dictator of China came over, San Francisco for a day or two had no homeless problem whatsoever. So this is purely a reflection of lack of political will to fix a problem. They're more focused on the 5-second sound bites, the whatever can catch someone's quick attention, instead of actually serving their voters. And that's the problem with bloody Cali, man. It's disgusting. You can wipe out the homeless problem in one day. It was insane. The streets were clean. They had flags for the Chinese leader up everywhere. No homeless to be seen. In this case, 11 years, $7.5 billion. I'm not saying that's been spent. I'm just saying that's how much was allocated. And they haven't done shit.
Right.
Like, it's disgusting.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah,
and they're
man.
not going to be held accountable because it's California. And like I said, like South Park had the turd running against a douche sandwich thing back in the day. So like, whether it's a turd or a douche sandwich, you put a D on it, they're getting elected in most of California.
Yeah. I mean, as a business attorney, like, so all this goes down. And this brings me to my third point of why things I think are so shady is that Karen Bass, the mayor of LA, she's out, right? She's visiting a family in like Ghana or something like that. Okay. She comes back and there's this like epically viral video of this reporter who has a mic in her face. Like, hey, what are you going to say to the citizens? You weren't here during the height of all this. Like, what's going on? And she's just kind of staring off, like saying nothing. Right. And then we see all these woke initiatives from budget allocation. We see the chief of the fire department being this female, like, thank goodness she's, LGBTQ, I guess. Like, I guess that helps with her qualifications. If you're a business owner, right, how much risk is involved here in conducting business in a place like Los Angeles County?
Well, listen, you have the tax scenario, which obviously straightforward is the most significant one. But in light of, and it seems that wildfires don't happen once every 20 years in California. They seem to happen more frequently, than that. You have to be insured up to the gills in California to have a functioning business there. You need business operation insurance. You need commercial umbrella policies. You need real property insurance. You need all sorts of key executive insurance. Any kind of insurance you can get in California, you need to conduct business.
Right.
Because if there's anything that's been demonstrated from this, is that you can't rely on the state of California to allow for the continuity of business. They are just not set up to allow to have natural disasters be anything other than cataclysmic.
So what's going to happen to the economy as businesses leave?
People are going to bolt, and that tax base is going to bolt. They had what was it? It was Norway or Iceland. I know Iceland's not Scandinavian, but like one of those countries, Norway, I think it was, who raised the tax rates on their billionaires, and they always do the calculation with they're going to stay. Well, that actually didn't happen. They left. And they actually got much less in revenue because of the tax increases, because the people they were seeking to get the taxes from just left. And we're truly we're a global economy now. I mean, Dubai, up until very recently, had no sales tax, no corporate tax, no personal tax. Presently, I believe it still has no personal income tax. It does have a sales tax. It's going up. It was 5% a few years ago. And it does have corporate income tax. You have countries all across Europe that are tax havens, like Ireland. There's a reason why Microsoft and Apple and all these companies are putting their building in Ireland. And Ireland, I don't know as of latest, but up until very recently, has been running a massive surplus. And that surplus gets fed into infrastructure. And that infrastructure helps fight fires, helps do all things. I mean, unless you're spending it on initiatives that have nothing to do with the betterment of your population. Yeah. But people are going to leave, and the people who are going to leave are going to be the wealthy people, because it's easier for someone with resources to leave than it is for someone who's just living paycheck to paycheck. Yeah. So, the end result of all this idealism is poor people get, not poor people necessarily, but middle class and people without a ton of resources get screwed. Yeah. So, I mean, there needs to be a significant shift in that state for it to maintain its position, It's very reliant on an extraordinarily strong tech sector. There's no doubt about the strength of that. And also, Hollywood. And there's actually a lot of military-industrial complex out there as well. But, they're not going to stay around forever. They're just not. You already have people leaving. It's only going to get worse now that they think that their taxes don't even go to pay for what they think they pay for.
Yeah, it's insane, man. And to that point with the leadership, right? So you also have Gavin Newsom, and this is definitely honorable mention here. But so I don't know if you knew this or not, but again, when I was doing research on this and trying to understand kind of what had taken place, did you know that 69% of State Farm policies were non-renewed last year in all of the areas where these wildfires are taking place? Because, and conspiracy theorists will say, oh, they knew it was going to happen, right? No. What happened was California would not put in place policies and procedures to clean up brush. And they knew the Santa Ana winds were going to come and start fires. And California would not clean up brush because it doesn't make them money. Disasters make them money, though. So all these insurance companies pulled out and left because they knew that this was imminent.
No, controlled burns and getting rid of loose brush and stuff like that is, without that, you're basically guaranteeing a result like this.
Right.
I honestly didn't know that, Chris. That they just, I was curious about this. I mean, it's standard forest maintenance, you know,
Yeah.
And
they're not doing it because they have so much space, right? And they'd rather allocate their funds, it would appear, towards woke initiatives and things like that, not cleaning up the actual forest and actually doing what they need to do, because there are tons of examples of places that have tons of forest acreage, and they're doing it right, and they're not having fires like this at all.
Yeah. No, that's terrible. I didn't know that. And you're talking about the woke initiatives. It reminds me of something that the chief of the fire department said. He says, when there's a fire and someone's coming in, you're dealing with fire. You want someone who looks like you, who you can relate to. I'm like, no. I don't care what race they are. I want some 6'5", 240-pound, built like a shit brick house, kicking in the door, like looking like a Marvel superhero, dragging me out with one arm. I don't want some like 5'1", 87-pound,
right,
gender irrelevant person coming in and being like, "I got you." I'm like, "No, we're both dead. we're both gonna die." So like,
oh, dude,
So
yes.
it is this, and they tried to apply it to our military as well, which is absolutely disastrous. I mean, the military's job is to maintain peace and also effectively execute war. There's no other purpose in the military than that. And you know what? Same for a firefighter. The job of the fire department is to mitigate the effects of fire. Nothing else matters. And this is a clear demonstration of the dangers that can unfold when you instigate policy that is not consistent with the main purpose of the job.
Yeah.
Like, why don't we have diversity in the NFL and have like 5 foot 95-pound guys running as fullbacks?
Right.
Even within the public sector, private sector, there's limitations on it. I mean, people want to bring it in, but that's a little bit different, But it's cold. It's really cold.
I don't know this for sure. I was talking to my dad. He lives in Irvine, California, and he said he saw. I think a lot of people have confirmed this, but I have not yet. But apparently, Kristen Crowley, LA fire chief, was asked about exactly what you're talking about. She's like, "Hey, I know you guys want to do this whole inclusive thing, equity, all that stuff. But what if my big husband's in a building and you need to drag him out?" And her response was something to the effect of, "I guess he shouldn't have been there."
Does she not know what her job is?
I know, man. Like, it's insane.
That's like a cop. That's like a cop saying, "Well, he shouldn't." That's like a cop telling a girl she shouldn't have worn that dress. You know what I'm saying? That's so insane. That statement is again, it's completely contrary to the job.
Yeah.
Oh, that's ridiculous. That's offensive, man.
Oh, it's awful.
I guess we should get like the overweight people to like write formal letters of complaint to her because she just basically stated that fat people deserve to die. And I've seen
Somewhat.
videos of her, and
That's what she's saying.
she is not small. she would fall victim to her own
Oh
frigging
gosh.
curse, if you would.
Oh gosh.
Damn,
Okay, so
that's crazy.
clearly these budget cuts are shady. Clearly the water reservoir, even the proposed bill that none have been built, like that's ridiculous. The mayor of LA, Karen Bass, not being available, and then when she finally is, not being apologetic, like, yeah, you're right, sorry guys, we weren't on top of this, we didn't see this coming. Instead, just like mute, totally mute. And then now the fourth thing that I think ties a lot of this together is we have to determine, hey, is there evidence that there's foul play here? And there are multiple reports of suspicious arson, and there's even videos out there of a man, a homeless man, that was arrested with, get this, a flamethrower. I mean, I looked it up, Gavin. I was like, how much is a flamethrower? And the majority of flamethrowers are like $1,000 to $3,000. How does a homeless guy get a hold of one of these?
I'm gonna type something in right now because Tesla made a flamethrower, right?
Yeah, they did.
I mean, it's technically not a flamethrower, but
Right.
I think that was like 3,000 or
I mean, crazy money.
yeah. No, I assume if a homeless person had that kind of money, he would be buying food, if they're an addict, drugs maybe,
Drugs,
a
yeah.
night at a hotel, a car. Like, a flamethrower seems pretty low on the list of priorities, Unless they were just absolutely S-bag crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have to be super crazy to prioritize. No, there's no way that guy's homeless. I mean, he may be now, but that's a choice. There's no way he couldn't afford a flamethrower.
Right. So there's that report. There's another interview of a lady in Palisades neighborhood saying that a whole truck of people pull up in masks, and they looked like the cartel, and they jumped out and they all spread to other houses, and they start like trying to force their way into homes, right? Because there's a lot of looting and things of that nature going on. But it was super, super shady for her because all of this arson had happened around them and stuff. And so you have people who are looting neighborhoods. You have people who are looting stores. You have potential arson from homeless people with high technology things. And then you also have conspiracy theorists say things like, hey, the 2030 agenda has always been smart cities. Do you know much about smart cities?
Is that the idea that everything's within 15 or minutes of itself? Like,
like everything's going to be smashed together. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like if you're creating that agenda, I mean, are you destroying a lot of the land?
I
don't know.
There was something that Mel Gibson said on Fox News. He's like, "Are they trying to get people to move out of the state?" I mean, I just got back from Tokyo recently, and that city is dense, man. You don't see a house I mean, you do drive for miles in any direction. You'll see a shrine or a temple every once in a while, but other than that, everything's just 20 plus stories up, and it's high rise, and yeah, it's crazy. I mean, America's more spread out than that. But this idea of just having everyone in a block is, I mean, honestly, it's just really a mechanism of control more than anything else. The great American pastime is hitting the open road, exploring new things, finding new places. That's completely contrary to the idea of your whole life being wrapped up in a 15-minute block,
Right.
It's anti-American, to be honest.
Right.
At least the philosophy of America that I understand. Not from a legal perspective, but from just a human perspective, you do start wondering, when do these unintentional, if someone makes one unintentional mistake, okay, yeah, but one after another, you start you can unintentionally start to demonstrate intent, So it becomes a valid question. We're going to weaken our fire department. We're going to cut it. We're not going to make merit the criteria for our fire department. We're going to cut funding from our fire department. We're going to have a bill passed to create reservoirs and completely ignore it. We're not going to do any fire, according to what I've heard today, not do any fire management as far as controlled burns and things like that. And the insurance companies, knowing all this, pull out. So you leave
And
your
you know
populace,
that.
yeah, you leave your populace completely unprotected. And trust me, I am no fan of the insurance industry as far as their conducts, but it to be fair to them also, it's purely a business decision.
Yeah.
But that being said, again, insurance is the only thing, if you can get it. That, and there has been this thing on social media where there's this house that apparently can stand up to 2,000 degrees in temperature. It's supposed to be like a fireproof house, basically. And you see this video, and the fire's circling all around the house, and there's this guy and his dog in the house. So, I mean,
I saw that video. I was wondering why the house wasn't catching on fire.
And that may be, after Hurricane Andrew back in the 80s or 90s, I think. I lived down here, and they started to change the construction rules, and properties were made safer. And since you clearly can't rely on LA or the state of California to do its bloody job, maybe every house needs to be a fireproof house now.
Well, but to your point, here's the problem: is as I understand it, it is dang near impossible to even build a fence in California. So not only are these people losing their homes, and like if we're covering the life aspect of this and how it really impacts people, not only are they losing their homes and like in these beautiful places overlooking beaches and mountains and all the incredible things that they really can't. Now they're not even able to rebuild because of these permitting issues and all of this just ridiculously strict permitting and zoning that LA County has.
Well, and the people need to have their voice heard, and they need to, for rebuilding, they need to step in, and this bureaucratic red tape needs to be taken away. I'm not talking about safety, but I'm talking about delay. And a lot of it is just pure bureaucratic delay. Of course, we need safety standards and regulations in the construction of homes. And we've had in North Carolina, I believe they've implemented them. In Florida, we've implemented them for hurricanes. I mean, I don't think there's anything such as a hurricane-proof building. I don't think that exists.
Probably
the
not.
Fireproof building sounded pretty cool, though. And I don't know. And again, even if you're just, average income person, your house has been destroyed. How long can you wait for somewhere to live? Are we going to have like California fire refugee camps everywhere where like people whose homes were destroyed are living in frigging tents? I mean, it's going to get worse before it gets better. Because we can't even really calculate the human and full financial toll yet because it's not fully done. So, it's going to get when everything settles and you just see death and homelessness and lives destroyed and homes destroyed and businesses destroyed and you see all of this misery and like I said, put up refugee camps for people. What they're gonna while simultaneously housing illegal immigrants in hotels, I mean, that'll be a real test of like the value of the citizenry of California to its politicians,
Yeah.
But it's at the end of the day, it's a really sad event that happened. The fact that it may have been done by arsonists or not, of course that has an impact. But the fire department is still there to stop this, just like cops are there to stop crimes. You know what I'm saying? Just because an arsonist may have started this does not absolve the fire department of its obligation. In the same vein that if someone commits a crime, cops can't say, oh, well, he committed a crime. What can we do? We're law enforcement. Yeah. People, and the shame is I'm saying, and I know I'm saying that businesses need to get insured, but it's not even an option. And they may need to look at alternative insurance sources as well. And they need to be careful with those because sometimes they're not as reliable as traditional insurance sources. But still, you can't run naked in California. from a business, I actually assume in California you can run naked, but from a business perspective,
Right.
being insured, you can't run naked in California. You know, like you
dude.
need to be protected as much as you can. And you listen, if you're living there, and if this is not enough, if after everything there's not aggressive, successful change, you shouldn't stay in that state anymore. You should look for a job elsewhere. You should put your business elsewhere. You know, you can't. I mean, I understand. Like San Francisco hasn't been hit, for example, but like in that part of California, you can't live there anymore. You risk your family. You risk your business. You risk your life.
Yeah.
Unless,
Yeah, man.
God willing, they make the change. By the way, God willing, they make the change. That would be my strong preference. And like Gavin Newsom, who regrettably bears my first name, would
I was thinking that.
yeah, would take it upon himself to be like, you know what? Screw this. This is what we're doing. I don't care what the political base says. These are my people, and I need to take care of them. F all of you political interests, you know?
Yeah.
And he would be he'd be one of my heroes if he'd do that, but that doesn't happen, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Well, Gavin, there it is, man. I mean, that's the real question. Can Californians and can these larger cities, can they trust their government to come save them when the economic downturns happen, the complete chaos takes place? Can you trust your government to save you, or is it really just a matter of like, well, shoot, this is awful, but unfortunately, when leadership fails, I have to have a plan in place to make sure that my business doesn't fail. And so we'll cover more of that in future episodes, but we wanted to get this one out as the fires are still not completely contained at the time of this recording, and all the things. So, hey guys, this has been Life Legal in the Headlines. I am Chris Farrell. He is Gavin Elliott, and we'll catch you next time.
And my prayers are with the people of California and with the government of California that they represent those people.
Yeah. Amen. Amen. All right, man.
Thanks. See you later, Chris.
Step into the courtroom, hear the gavel drop. Gavin's got the insight, breaking down the plot. From handshake deals to the fine print lines. Truth in the law where the drama aligns. Lies get caught, stories unfold. Justice shines when the facts get told. Wanna win the game, better know the rules. Life Legal Headlines, get the tools. Life Legal and the headlines. Facts don't lie, let's analyze. Get the truth, no compromise. Tune in now, get legally wise. From love and business to suing with style, decode the law, no need for a trial. Contract secrets, what's fair, what's fake. Know your rights before it's too late. Empowered, informed, now you're ahead. No legal jargon, just knowledge instead. From scandals to wins, we break it down right. With Gavin on deck, truth comes to light. Life Legal and the headlines. Facts don't lie, let's analyze. Get the truth, no compromise. Tune in now, get legally wise. Life Legal and the headlines. Facts don't lie, let's analyze. Get the truth, no compromise. Tune in now, get legally wise. Life Legal and the headlines. Facts don't lie, let's analyze. Get the truth, no compromise. Tune in now, get legally wise. Tune in now, get legally wise.
Life.